The night I found the second phone, I was folding laundry in our bedroom and I stopped folding because I heard my husband in the shower talking like he was having a private conversation. He always took long showers at night. He said he mostly worked late, but the long showers were a tell. He had started hiding receipts, hiding chargers, saying work asked him to carry a burner. I told myself not to look. I told myself I was being paranoid. Then, I found a slim, black phone behind a shoebox in the closet with a charger looped around it like someone had put it there for a reason. The phone was unlocked, because he left it open to a thread. My hands went cold before I even looked at the screen. The thread was with my brother. Not a business number. Not some stranger's contact to plan a surprise party. It was my brother's name and picture, and the messages were slow and intimate, the kind of messages people don't send to family. He called my brother baby. He sent photos I had never seen of my brother curled up shirtless on our couch. He sent months of plans, nights, meetups, references to my schedule. One message said they were planning to run away together the month after next. I sat on the closet floor and mouthed words I couldn't say out loud. I kept looking because I couldn't stop. There were voicemails marked with my brother's name. There were memes, sex jokes, a selfie of my husband at 2 a.m. on our bed. My throat felt like someone had tied a rope around it. I had pictures of those two men as separate parts of my life. My husband who made coffee, who filled the sink with dishes, and my brother who brought me soup after bad breakups. Both were those roles. Those messages erased every reflex I had to protect them. The closet felt like a stage, and I was the only audience. I didn't go straight to them. I put the phone back exactly where it was and sat at the kitchen table and tried to breathe. I called my friend Chloe because she is the one I tell the stupid stuff to, the one who helps me remember facts when my brain breaks. I told her very quietly that I had found something and asked her to come over. She came with a bottle of wine and no judgment. She sat and listened while I told her what I had seen, and she didn't say, calm down or you're overreacting. She said, get screenshots. She said, record him saying anything. She said, protect yourself. She knew I would doubt myself, so she gave me things to do. The first crack came when I confronted my husband at dinner that night. He was folding a napkin and said he'd been running late at work. I held the phone out like it was evidence in a courtroom. He did what I expected and what I hated. He laughed and said I was being ridiculous. Then he closed his face and said our names were on the messages because my brother had asked him to help with something. He said it was platonic. He said my brother was being needy and he had crossed a line in text, but nothing physical had ever happened. He told me he had been trying to help me by being my brother's buddy. The shoulder, the escape. He said he hadn't meant to hurt me. My brother called in the middle of that conversation, and his voice on speaker was suddenly grainy and small. He told me he and my husband had been texting as a joke at first, that it was stupid and humiliating and done. He asked me to trust him. He told me we were both blowing it out of proportion. He said if I wanted, we could go to family therapy. He sounded like the brother I grew up with who would bring me a blanket when it stormed. That night, they both acted like there was nothing to see, and I was an overreacting wife and sister. That was the first manipulation, make the person who's been harmed feel like the problem. I slept on the couch because my body wouldn't go into our bed where their messages had been drafted. I woke to a text from my husband saying sorry a few hours after I'd left the house. It was empty and polite and felt like a rehearsed apology from a corporate PR manual. My brother texted later to say he loved me and we needed to talk. The text looked innocent then, because words can be anything if you choose the right ones. 2 weeks passed. I told myself to wait. I wanted proof of more than words. I pretended to be okay at work. I answered emails. I smiled. Chloe sat with me and scrolled the thread again, and we found a bank transfer screenshot in the second phone between my brother and my husband. Small amounts, regular. Transfers that didn't make sense, labeled as reimbursements. It didn't say sex. It didn't say secrets, but it did say they were paying for hotel rooms, a rental car, and on one line it said deposit for March 15th, the same day my husband had told me he had been in a meeting. All of a sudden, the story they had offered, that these were jokes, platonic slips, began to look like a plan. The bank transfers were a real-world action that shoved the emotional collapse into facts. I confronted my brother again, and he veered, from panic to outrage. He said he hadn't been thinking straight, that my husband had confided in him, that they had made a mistake. He begged me not to tell my parents because he was ashamed. He dropped the word addiction, then backtracked and said it was complicated. He asked for time. He told me privately he wanted me to take the high road. I told my mother because I wanted someone who had watched me grow up to tell me if I was losing my mind. My mother sat with the phone for an hour, then handed it back to me and said simply, "Do what you need to do." But she also took my brother's side at first, in private, not against me, exactly, but she said he was young and misguided and that everyone makes mistakes. Suddenly, our family was split into people who wanted to keep the peace and people who wanted to punish. My uncle texted me to ask if I was sure. One cousin chose to believe my husband's version. One aunt stopped answering my calls. The first public fracture happened at my sister-in-law's birthday lunch. My brother called me from the bathroom and asked to talk. I went out into the alley and he said he loved my husband and they had been seeing each other for months. He wanted to leave their wives and go away with him. He said he wanted honesty. He said he didn't want to hurt me, and I laughed because that was a vulgar joke and he was crying, and both things could be true. He begged me to not say anything at the party. He promised he would tell everyone himself. He didn't. Instead, 2 days later, my husband posted on social media about privacy and integrity and how rumors are cruel. My brother liked the post. My mother wrote a comment about forgiveness. My phone blew up with messages from friends asking what was going on. Someone had shown them a version of the truth that made me look like a liar who was causing family pain. Someone else had sent screenshots that stripped context and made my husband look like the betrayed one. In a single afternoon, the story flipped. People who had promised to be neutral started naming sides. I had a moment of false victory when my husband, under pressure, agreed to see a counselor and said he would delete the second phone. He said he would cut contact with my brother. The second phone disappeared from the closet and from my view. He seemed contrite. My brother sent me an apology text that felt like a ransom note apologetic, but with strings attached. He said he couldn't handle the fallout. He said it had been about something he had been carrying since college, something about money and a bad decision our father made and how he'd been trying to fix it quietly. He asked me again to not tell anyone. I felt relief because maybe secrecy protected the family after all. Then Chloe found an email my husband had sent from his work account to my brother's personal account. It was a travel itinerary with room numbers and usernames. My stomach dropped again. The false victory peeled away like paint. Worse, my brother started private messages to mutual friends accusing me of trying to ruin him, of trying to ruin their marriage, of being unstable. He and my husband had started a narrative that made me the violent, jealous, irrational one. People I had known for years stopped returning my texts. My mother told me to slow down. My father called me hysterical. I hit the lowest point when a package arrived at my work desk, a stack of printed screenshots of the messages and photos, but this time arranged to look like I had been the one messaging myself to get attention. Someone had doctored the images, someone had clicked send, and chosen to make me the villain. At lunch, I sat in my car and sobbed and felt a part of my identity die. I had always been the person who kept my family together, who fixed things by pretending everything was fine. Now that scaffolding was gone, and I didn't know who I was without it. The internal collapse was brutal and simple. I realized I had spent years defending both men because I wanted to be loved by both. I had prioritized peace over truth. That realization was ugly and necessary. I stopped hoping they would clean up their mess. I stopped letting people tell me to be quiet. I called a lawyer and told Chloe to gather everything: screenshots, bank statements, the voicemail with my brother's voice where he joked about running away. I recorded a conversation with my husband when he called and tried to plead. He said they had been in love, and it was complicated. He said he still loved me, but not the way I needed. I recorded it. The strategy changed. I stopped begging for family unity and started protecting myself. I sent the screenshots and the audio to my parents, and to a group chat with immediate family, and to my brother's wife. I wrote a short note. I will not be quiet about what is real. I said I was sorry for the mess, and that they deserved the truth. I didn't explain. I just sent facts and chose to let them interpret. There was screaming. There were frantic calls. Some people thanked me for being honest. Others blocked me. My brother sent a long message accusing me of destroying him. Then he posted a version of the messages that made him look innocent. My husband left the house the next morning with a bag and did not come back. The climactic confrontation was not dramatic in a movie way. It was painfully domestic. My brother showed up at my mother's house and tried to talk to everyone in the kitchen like nothing had happened. My mother told him to leave. I walked in with the audio and the screenshots and said I was tired of hiding it. I played the recording of him talking about leaving the month after next, and I laid out the bank transfers. I said that this was what had been happening. My brother's face went stone, then pale. He tried to take my phone from me, and my mother told him no. He stormed out. My husband showed up later to pack a second bag, and he said quietly that he was sorry, but it wasn't the same apology I had wanted. There were consequences. My brother lost friends. My husband moved out. My parents stopped speaking to both of them for a while. My family was broken. But the truth was no longer a rumor in someone's group chat. Now, months later, the house feels calm in the way a hospital room does after emergency surgery. I moved into a smaller apartment. I go to therapy. Chloe sleeps over sometimes. My brother calls on holidays and I answer sometimes, and I keep the conversation short. My father and I talk about boundaries. My mother and I are learning how to sit with anger without smoothing it down. My husband is paying for the mistakes he made by living with their emptiness. He had a second life in our closet, and that life gutted everything we built. I still find traces of him, a scent on a sweater. a plate left in the sink, and I feel the old panic come up. But the panic lasts a minute now, not an entire day. The biggest thing I learned is that secrecy is the engine of betrayal, and that shame makes people protect the wrong people. I chose to stop being the keeper of other people's secrets. I chose to tell the truth. That choice cost me a family as I knew it, but it gave me my center back. The opposite of the closet is a locked door that I hold the key to, and I am keeping it closed.